Alright guys, all muscle here. We're working today on a F-150. It's my neighbor's truck, so I'm helping him out on it. I don't usually work on other people's units, but for this particular one, we're going to go ahead and help him out. This is basically a 1997 F-150. It's the basic truck with a 4.2 liter V6, and this 4.2 liter had massive issues with faulty gaskets, and so I'm going to go ahead and show you what it's all about. When basically the complaint was he drove the truck and noticed that there was white smoke coming out of the tailpipe for maybe a couple times. You know, he would leave it, go to the gym or something, come back out, fire it up, and white smoke would come out, and it would clear up within, you know, I'm going to say like a minute or so. Then the truck would run fine, and so he didn't really think much of it. But he comes out one morning and tries to fire the truck up, and basically just hears a loud bang. Truck doesn't turn over. It's just done. So brings it over, and I'm kind of going through it, trying to figure out what it is, and stupefied. And the motor turns freely until it gets to a certain point, and then you'd back it off, and then continue to turn, and it would turn. So I didn't think it was hydrolocked, so I was thinking that there was something that was holding the motor up, mechanically in the transmission area. This is the shot of the engine compartment here. So anyways, so I pulled off the going to pull off the transmission. I dropped the exhaust and pulled off the transmission. Everything looked fine under there, and when I did that, we went ahead and turned over the motor, and I was underneath the truck, had my son, he was turning it over, and on the passenger side, the collector with the header manifold, exhaust manifold, starts dumping out antifreeze all over me. So at that point I figured that it did have faulty, actually at that point I knew it had coolant in the piston, in the piston wall there, in the area, in the cylinder bore. So we stopped. We don't have any engine oil. I'm sorry, we don't have any coolant in the engine oil. The engine oil seems clear, and it's at the perfect level. So none of it went down past the rings at this point, as far as I know, as far as I can see actually. So what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and tear the motor down to the head gaskets, and as we tear it down, we're gonna see what we can find. So far I could see, I don't know if you can see this, but all these intake ports are soaking wet, and there's antifreeze. So there you go. There's a good green shot there. Those little green droplets there. Anyway, so this intake manifold had issues with the gaskets. These 97, 98, 99, these 4.2s had faulty gaskets, and I think there was a technical service bulletin put out on these, and I'm not sure if it got to the point where Ford recalled them, but there was a lot of people that were pretty pissed off about this situation. Here's a shot of the trans. We're going to be putting a new clutch and flywheel on that when as we get this project to completion here. Here's the top intake manifold, and if I flip it over, as soon as I pulled it out, it started leaking water out of it. There's some antifreeze there. That's not how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to have antifreeze in your intake. So anyways, the complaint on this is that the gaskets that were faulty, and they would leak from the intake manifold gasket, they would leak into the cylinders, and basically make the truck hydrolock. And if you try to run it, or were running it and it stopped on you, now at this point you have a bent valve, you have bent rods, and most of the time it would require an engine rebuild and a full teardown, obviously, like I'm doing here. At this point, with all the water drained out of the cylinders, and we drained all the water out of the cylinders, and we can turn the motor over, and it gets to a point like where it's kind of seized up and it's binding just a little bit. It's not turning 100% freely. So we're going to get to the heads, and we're going to take the heads off, see if we can, after we take the heads off, see if our rotating assembly turns freely. If our rotating assembly turns freely, then we'll go ahead and stop at that point and basically just service the top end with new gaskets, new head bolts, new head gaskets, new intake manifold gaskets, and put it back together. And possibly, you know, like I said, if there's a bent valve in there, we're going to check all that out, make sure that that this truck's going to run properly after we're done. If it doesn't turn freely, then we're gonna basically tear this motor all the way down and check out the rods, see which ones are bent, if they are bent, and replace the rods that are bent, rod bearings, and then reseal this whole motor and put it back together. So it's going to be kind of intensive here. Particularly, you know, I don't really work on these V6. I actually don't work on V6 cars at all. But this happens to be, like I said, my neighbor's truck, and we're helping him out. And so far, this is what I've got. So I'm gonna keep you posted on this truck. Like I said, there's a lot of people that should be interested in this video because there was thousands of complaints on this. And this is a 97, so I understand. You know, these trucks, most of them, you know, most people have, you know, newer trucks and they don't deal with this stuff anymore. But if you do have one of these, this truck only has 101 or 102,000 miles on it, so it's, you know, he hasn't driven it too much. You know, as far as being a 97, that's pretty damn good mileage. But anyways, we'll keep you posted on this, and I'm gonna get back to work for now. Thanks for watching, guys.